So I think it is harder to to prioritize because right when I was superintendent of public works, I you kind of have blinders on. You're looking at your area and you want to make your section your area the best. So you're fighting the most. Now stepping back or looking at it from 10,000 feet, what is the best for everybody? And I have a soft heart for public works, but I have to put that aside to see what is the absolute best for the city of Weyburn and the residents, and also balancing that budget.
Welcome to Cross Border Interviews, the show where we dive into the insights of municipal political leaders from across Canada. Now, our mission on this show is quite simple: shine a light on the dedicated individuals who day in and day out work around the council table to shape the communities that we call home. And for today's episode, we're heading back to Weyburn, Saskatchewan today to sit down and speak with Councillor Todd Bedore. Over 10,500 residents call Weyburn their home. Weyburn's main economic base is comprised of agricultural services and shipping, oilfield exploration, manufacturing and processing, and business and industry services. Weyburn's rich soils have made for excellent grain farming in the area, helping make Weyburn the country's highest volume inland grain handling center. Well over 500,000 tons of grain pass through the Weyburn terminals each and every year. The bottom line: Weyburn has a solid economic and community foundation on which new opportunities are built. Across Canada, our cities, towns, villages, and rural communities are alive with stories waiting to be told. Stories of innovation and economic development, resilience in the face of the housing challenges, and the financial hurdles municipalities overcome every day. At the Cross Border Network, we bring these stories to life. From coast to coast to coast, we're connecting Canadians to the issues shaping our communities and showcasing the people working tirelessly to make them thrive. With your support, we can expand our reach, amplify more voices, and shine a light on the challenges and triumphs of municipal life. For as little as $3.99 a month, you can help us grow and continue sharing the stories that matter most. Join us today and be part of this important mission. Together, we can tell more stories, build stronger communities, and make a real difference. Support the Cross Border Network now. Visit www.crossborderinterviews.ca today. Councillor, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about yourself and talking about the great community of Weyburn, Saskatchewan. In our Weyburn, Saskatchewan week, we just had your fellow council colleague on the show, and we're honored to have you on the show. And I want to start by getting to know about the man behind the persona a little bit. So I've got to ask the simple but very overarching question: where did your sense of duty to serve your community come from, Todd?
It came real early. I'm born and raised in Weyburn. I raised my family here, and when I was about 22 years old, I joined the local Kinsman Club, and that's kind of where my passion started. My volunteering started there, and I had kids really young, and a lot of my friends were off in university. I was looking for something to hang my hat on, and then really it started with I had played a really big role in Telemiracle in my life. So Telemiracle, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but worked my way through that rank there, and then was the chair of the foundation board and actually chaired Telemiracle 40 in Saskatchewan. So that was kind of the peak of my career in volunteering, and then just really on the community level, coached football for many years, even when my son quit for many years, and oil show board and communathon, and this was just the natural next step for me.
So was politics always in the cards though? Because you don't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to run for council. Had you considered it prior to running in the last provincial municipal elections in Saskatchewan in 2024?
So everything I told you before about volunteering, that those are all warm, fuzzy things. Coaching football and Telemiracle and everybody, there's not much you can do wrong there. But when the next level for me was municipal politics, and I really considered running. We had a by-election before the last election, and it wasn't just the right time in my life. But now, I really enjoyed the team that was running, and I think we could do great things. So that was seemed like I want to put my stamp on now.
So had you paid attention to what was going on in the community prior to putting your name on the ballot? Because you said you were considering putting your name on the ballot in that by-election, but uh, I get a sense when I speak to people, and I'm not painting you into this corner here, but correct me if I'm wrong, but that some people who want to take that plunge actually do some research. They attend council meetings, they read the reports, they listen to what the community wants. Prior to entering into the political arena, what background work did you do to ensure? Because I looked at your resume, and I'm going to be one of those people that says you worked for the city as well at the same time. So you worked for the city, and now you're governing the city. So you had some background in municipal governance before jumping into the political arena.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a little bit of a window into the workings. The first time I've always been private sector in my career, oil and gas, manufacturing, and then when COVID hit, everything was upside down, and I applied for the job there at the city, and there was a secure position, and got an operational look, which frankly was can be a little bit of a detriment when you're a councilman. So I have to really be cognizant of my operational excellence that I try to bring in my career, and then draw back and be way more strategic. Weyburn's that nice size of 11,000, just over 11,000 people. So being here, I know you kind of know everybody and everything, and you really got to step back, and that's something that I've had to learn. And but also, went to council meetings, read every minute, read all the minutes, watched the videos. Yeah, fully engaged.
So this you're one of the few people that I get to ask this question to. So be honored that you get to be asked this question because I can imagine in your role as superintendent of public works, if I'm not mistaken, that's what the title was. You had to present to council in that role, and you had to recommend things to council. Now being on the other side of the table, which is harder? Is it the recommendation or is it the voting on the recommendation?
So I think it is harder to to prioritize, because right when I was superintendent of public works, you kind of have blinders on. You're looking at your area, and you want to make your section, your area the best. So you're fighting the most. Now stepping back, or looking at it from 10,000 feet, what is the best for everybody? And I have a soft heart for public works, but I have to put that aside to see what is the absolute best for the city of Weyburn and the residents, and also balancing that budget.
We've had the pleasure of speaking with Mayor Jeff Richards on the show as well about the first 100 days in office, and the first 100 days in office is usually drinking from a fire hose. But for Weyburn, it wasn't just drinking from a fire hose; it was getting plunged into the pool, drinking from the fire hose while there's no oxygen around you because you had so many things that were going on in those first 100 days. Did you get up to speed as quickly as you thought you needed to in those first 100 days? Because any other municipal politician who just got elected in November probably is looking at you and saying, thank God it wasn't me who went through that.
Yeah, and I think what it did is it plunged us right in, like you said. And now I feel myself after that first kind of wave, with we had the rink go down and the pool, and it made headlines in a few places, and then everybody's asking for answers. And that is something you got to work through the process. But now I feel like everything's moving in slow motion, because you were so intense there for that first month or two, and then it kind of you had time to breathe and have some space, and budget time as well. So you're squeezed so hard in that first little bit, and now it feels like we got a little time and space. So I think it was as bad as it was a real way to get you jumped right in.
Have you come to the realization yet that those decisions that you have to make, those very quick decisions around that council table, especially when you're put into that emergency situation where things are going down around you, that not everyone in your community is going to be fully behind what you're doing. So how do you make those tough decisions as a counselor? Because you've had to make some very tough ones in the first almost 5 months in office. So how do you make those tough decisions knowing that not everyone's going to be behind you?
Yeah, and that is a big challenge for me personally as well, because I know so many people, and that grocery store talk happens a lot. And you have to, when it comes to our pool, that's a prime example right now. We're without a pool and will be without one for a year or two. And that's near and dear to my heart. My kids swam competitively, played water polo, so that is near and dear to my heart, and plus lots of friends. So we have to act now, but have to do it right. And that's one thing. You have 11,000 opinions, and trying to figure out, you're never going to make everyone happy, but you have to make the right decision for not only today, but way in the future.
So how do you do that though? Because and I've asked this to a few people, so don't think that I'm just picking on you here for a second, Todd, but we all have our own moral compass that we stand by. We all have our own internal right and wrong and what's best for the community. But you're elected by the people of Weyburn, Saskatchewan. You know the majority of people in Weyburn,
Yeah.
Saskatchewan. So when they come to you and say, "This is what I want," and you hear that over and over again, but internally you say, "I hear them, but this is the best path forward for the town." Who wins in that internal fight that you have to deal with? Is it Todd? Is it the councillor? Or is it the community? Or depends on the issue. It could be any one of those three.
Yeah, so I'm, very clearly elected by the people to try to represent the people, and that's my own agenda means absolutely nothing. I don't have an agenda, so I'm not a swimmer. I'm not a but I feel that Weyburn has spoke loudly that we want a pool. Now the other thing is we don't need a Cadillac. I'm saying that because I sell cars for a living, but we don't need a Cadillac, but we need something functional that's gonna take us for the next 50 years. And not only that, but very loudly people are saying, hey, we need to build onto this. What does this look like in not just pop a pool down, but is it expandable? Is there other facilities here? So the great thing about being engaged, like I have been in the past, is people aren't afraid to come up to me with their opinions and what that should look like. And balance that is we can't blow the bank, because that is something we did not plan for a pool, and pools are not cheap.
What? You're breaking the
Yeah.
breaking news here on the cross border interviews. Pools are not cheap.
Yes,
And
exactly.
to really break the news, pools do not make money for municipalities either. They always
Yeah.
run a deficit. So that's just my own personal
Yeah.
point there. Um, you talk about how you know people in the community and about the corners, the grocery store stop and talk. These people probably know you more than they know their MLA or their MP. But, and this is the big but, and this is something that I'm trying to do on this show, the knowledge of what the jurisdictional role the municipality plays compared to the provincial government and the federal government is kind of gray right now. I would imagine there's people who come to you and say, Todd, counselor, fix our school system. Todd, counselor, fix our provincial highways. How do you tell people, because people know you and they're willing to come up to you, that it's not your issue, but it is because they've come to talk to you and they're the people who've elected you?
Yeah, and that's where municipal government is. You're obviously the closest to the people, and yeah, and they come to you to maybe move that message forward. And that's something that our council is really aligned on, is building that relationship. We have a new MLA in Weyburn, Weyburn
And
and
soon
area.
to be MP as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we have new representation there, and building that relationship is super important. Our MLA is from Weyburn as well. So and I have a personal relationship with him. We grew up together, very similar age and everything. So that personal relationship helps, but also I'm advocating for my people. So we have highway connector programs and all this kind of stuff, and we need to advocate to get as much money to the city of Weyburn, because if it's not going to the city of Weyburn, it's going somewhere else.
Is it hard to advocate when you realize, because you talk about the amount of money that you have at the end of the year, and municipalities can't run deficits. You
Yeah.
can take out loans, you can take out grants, you can take out you can debentures, but you cannot run a deficit. You have to balance your books every year, and people want things, like you said. pools do not come cheap. As someone who knows your community, who wants the best for your community, is that the hardest part of the job so far, is telling people we just can't do it? Or how do you tell people we can't fix every issue without saying we can't fix every issue? Because that will be the shortest career in politics, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's probably the most, I would say, not overwhelming, but when I got into budget time, and you're bright and shiny eyed, and you just got elected, and you're going to change the world, and then you realize, hey, we're only $100 million short of what my goals were. And then it really comes back to operational efficiencies, making sure we're doing absolutely as much as we can with the dollars we have, but also being very, very real with our citizens, saying 0% tax increases are not going to happen anymore, because 0% is minus 3 or 4 in this day and age. Every time you put a 0%, people, your staff, your team deserves raises. Inflation is killing us in construction right now. And where we have jobs bid out that we think we know what they're going to cost, and they're coming in as double. So communicating that out to the residents, that in the next few years, please do not expect anything less than a 5 or 6, because that's going to be the new norm to try to get things going.
That's pretty tough talk there. Like that, to tell people like that's how we have to sort of live in this new world that we live in because of the inflation. Do you get a sense that people understand the challenges that the city's faced with, or is there an education portion that needs to happen along that lines as well?
Yeah, there's definitely an education portion that we're working on as well, and trying to communicate as best we can, but understanding everybody knows, they sees it around them, that things are going up. Now, the biggest thing we have to do as the City of Weyburn is make sure that they're seeing value.
Yeah.
So, our infrastructure budget this year is a little bit, not, I would say, not sexy. It's the water treatment plant, it's the lift stations. But if clean water can't come out and dirty water can't go, you're already behind the 8 ball.
I have done about 350 of these episodes, and every time someone talks about wastewater treatment facilities, they always say it's not the sexy part of the job. I love it. I love that that's the common denominator across Canada, that wastewater treatment facilities is just not sexy. Before I turn to Weyburn as a whole, I have one last final question. Because the role of a counselor is not a part-time job. It pays part-time, but it is not a part-time job. The moment you step out of your office, the moment you step out of your house, the moment you go grocery shopping, you're no longer Todd anymore. The only time you're Todd is when you're in your house in your four walls. Have you been able to strike the balance of being Todd and being counselor? Because I can imagine there's days, especially in the first few days, when you just wanted to just relax and decompress, but things happen and you need to be Todd 24/7. If someone stops you, you have to take time to deal with that issue that they have or talk to that person because that might be the only time they get to chat with you.
Yeah, it is. You have to be on all the time, and that's something that personally, my job, my full time job is I'm in sales, so it's a very active hub of where I am. So part time is sales, but part time is people come in the dealership and want to talk politics all the time, and whether it be a tree down or something even bigger, you have to take that, just chat with them. But also, people have to respect that I have a career and a job as well. And if someone comes out to me and I'm busy, I'm like, hey, here's my card, I'll give you a call back, that kind of thing. But in general, small town, you're on all the time.
Has the family accepted the fact that dad and husband is going to always be on 24/7?
So what wife is used to me being on all the time. He's used
So
to me being on.
how often is she doing the grocery shopping now and saying, I'm not going grocery shopping with you because it's going to take forever to go in and get out because you're going to talk to everyone?
Yeah, exactly. And we kind of plan for that longer. And we have a nice little getaway. We have a place at Kenosi Lake. So sometimes you can kind of chill and go for a nice walk there and just kind of reconnect there. But yeah, whether it be the grocery store or going out for supper, people want, and that's that's what I sign up for. I signed up for it to be available and to chat. We talked a lot about that during the campaign.
I want to turn to the city of Weyburn as a whole now. And before I do this, as I often do on this show, so whoever has listened to the show before, please skip ahead about 15 seconds because I have a rant coming in here. This is a conversation between the councillor and myself. This is not a motion of council, not a direction of council, not a policy of council. This is the councillor's opinion and his opinion alone. Now, what he says may line up with what council is doing, but at the end of the day, he is still one vote around that council table, and he needs a majority of votes to pass anything or get any motion approved to have administration administer what they have asked them to govern. So, with that being said, thank you so much for that brief TED Talk, councillor. As of recording this at the beginning of April 2025, I don't want you to talk about the pool because we know that's a challenge. I don't want you to talk about the ice rink because we know that was a challenge. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing the city of Weyburn today as of recording this interview?
So the biggest challenge right now is growth. We need, in order to move this city forward at a faster pace than we are right now, we need to be open for business and get some building and business here, and really advocate for ourselves. So that really, in my mind, starts to trickle down and solve some of the other problems. We have we have a generally low tax rate, which can be perceived as bad. Most people perceive it as good, but when you have a limited funds, and like you said, we can't run a deficit budget. You only have so many times, so many ways you can slice the pie. Yeah. And infrastructure wise, we can talk about the underground stuff, but our roads are in tough shape right now, and especially this time of year, we just smiled that we're +8 today in Weyburn and going to be +15, but the craters are opening up, and it's tough because it's not just a little bit of a pothole fill; it's rebuilding roads, and that once again is not a cheap fix.
So let's talk about the growth aspect of that part, of that challenge first, and then we'll talk about the infrastructure because that's where I like to talk about a little bit because it's a major factor not just for Weyburn but across Canada. Now, growth is needed to grow your community, to make your community viable, because there's always that ebbs and flows where people leave to go to larger cities or just move out of the community because of job losses and so on and so forth. Not saying that's the only reason people move out, but that's one of the major reasons. How do you grow your community sustainably while not doing it on the backs of the people who are there? Because that is the biggest challenge that I think municipalities are facing right now, where if you bring in 500 houses, you have to make sure the infrastructure is there. So we're going to talk about both at the same time, but growing is important. How do you see that sustainable growth over the next 20 years to be a viable place that Weyburn is prosperous?
Yeah, so I think there's two things there. With residential, we have to make it. We don't. Back in the 2010, 2007, we had this huge kind of oil boom and everything blew up, and then it just kind of went away. So now that Weyburn blew up, many different developments going over, and then as oil kind of settled down a little bit there, there's houses going up onesies, twosies, and that's all we see. So now making it. We might not see the impact in our fiscal budget if we start doing some tax concessions, but maybe in 5 to 7 years we're going to see that, and we have to be competitive. As much as we like to align ourselves with some of the cities, we have to be competitive with the other cities to make sure that someone wants to build their house in Weyburn, and make sure our incentives are competitive, and making sure our processes for going through, building a house or a business is barrier free. We don't want to have a jungle, but we have to make sure that it's really easy to do business in Weyburn and build in Weyburn.
Do you think it is right now?
I think we have some work to do. And when I say that, we've done some really good work on some incentives, and we're starting to see a little bit of boil on the back end, some show home incentive programs and little things. But I think we can't be comfortable with, oh, we got it. Yeah, let's put that to bed. We're hearing from our community that maybe it's not quite right. So don't be arrogant enough to think you fixed it. Be able to be humble enough to say, hey, we thought we were right. Maybe we can tweak a change here or there to make it just that next level.
So what's the vision for Weyburn then for you as councillor? Because according to your website, you have a population, the Weyburn, Saskatchewan website. There's a population of about 10,500. You said 11,000, so I'm going to go with that 11,000 number that you just said. What's the vision? What's the number that you're looking at? Because is it a population growth that you're looking at? Is it an economic growth that you're looking at? More businesses? What exactly are you looking for? And what does Weyburn, Saskatchewan look like in 2030 for Councillor Bedore?
Yeah, so I think it starts with business.
Okay.
I believe it starts with business because if you have business here, then naturally people are moving here. Naturally, people are buying houses. Then your $200,000 and $300,000 houses maybe get sold, and somebody else is building a different house. So I think it really starts with opening up business. And right now, it is retail is tough. We have some small stores that retail is really tough right now online. So we're trying to figure out, and we don't have the magic wand yet, but building those relationships. And when we go to sell Weyburn, you basically you are a salesperson. You have to sell Weyburn as a place because Weyburn's good, but so is Yorkton, so is Estevan, so Swift Current, all of them are really good. How can we make Weyburn? And I don't think we have that magic wand yet, but I think it is all building those relationships and being in those conversations.
So playing a little bit of devil's advocate with you for a second, just for one question before we turn to the next segment, because I'm cautious of time here for a second. What would you say to the residents of Weyburn who say, we don't want it to grow? We don't want Weyburn to change because this is the reason we've moved here. We've moved for that small city atmosphere where everyone knows everywhere. Moved here because the pace of living is a lot different than a big city like Regina or Moose Jaw. How do you combat that sort of I don't want to say NIMBYism because it's not fully NIMBYism because that's growing housing in my own backyard, but how do you balance the needs of your community who want it to grow with the needs of the community who don't want it to grow and feel the same way?
So yeah, I'm going to be frank with you. I haven't heard that from our community members.
Really?
That's something, I haven't heard. I want to stay exactly the same.
Okay.
And, you know, but also I don't think other side of that, I don't think they want 5,000 people tomorrow because that changes things. But slow, steady, sustained growth that we're not standing still. And I think everybody wants the new restaurant, the new business, the new whatever. But there's not there during my campaign. I'm not hearing that I don't want it to grow.
Well, I'm gonna ask a question. If you want me to just move on, just tell me to move on. But what's Weyburn missing in your opinion? What's the one thing you wish that Weyburn had that it doesn't have right now?
So I think Weyburn is lacking right now, and this is my opinion, just that little bit of identity. I've been born and raised in Weyburn, and it's this nice, sleepy little town. We're kind of a microcosm. We're an hour away from Regina, which can be a detriment, but is also a very big benefit to being an hour away from Regina. But I think we just need to find out who we are, put our stamp on. We we have some great things going on here, but we don't really tell many people about it. And we think we need to have that identity, and that identity that, hey, we're something unique, but also, hey, we are open for business, and we are aggressively open for business.
While we talk about the challenges a lot on this show, actually, no, I want to talk about infrastructure for a second because growth comes with infrastructure. We mentioned that. How do you is Weyburn set up for the potential sustainable growth that needs to? Because you're right, aging infrastructure is a big thing. If you go outside your door right now, I'm assuming you'll see a few potholes. I know we're talking in the middle of winter, middle of spring right now when things are like that, but do you get a sense that Weyburn is is able to take on the growth that you potentially want to see, whether that be the business sector, because you need water, you need treatment facilities to be able to handle that. Can Weyburn do that today, or do you see that as a work in progress?
I definitely see it as a work in progress. One of the overwhelming pieces that I see is, and I'm going to use just some loose examples here, but every time you open up the door of a water treatment plant, it costs you $1 million. Every time you look at a lift station or upgrades of that is $1, 2, 3, $4 million, and that is not sustainable for municipalities. So we're going to be really working hard for this infrastructure funding to come from different levels of government too, even though it's coming out of all the same pocket. We're all taxpayers, but it is not sustainable for any city, let alone Weyburn, Estevan, any city to keep footing bills of millions and millions of infrastructure when on the backs of your taxpayers, because it's just not sustainable.
Thank you so much for playing in that sandbox for a second. I want to turn to my flip question on the original one. And while we all have our challenges, what's the good things that are going on in Weyburn that you are proud of, that you look at and say, you know what, we have our growth challenges, we have our identity challenge, we have our infrastructure challenges, but we've got this going right for us. What's that one thing that you look at the community and say, this makes it all better?
So I want to highlight the safety of our community. A lot of times policing and emergency services, they take a little bit for granted. This is near and dear to my heart. My son is a police officer in Regina, and that is near and dear to my heart. But also, Weyburn's not a safe community by accident. Yeah. There's a lot of hard work going on there to keep it that way, and that's one of the biggest pluses for Weyburn. I live in a small little bay here in Weyburn, and you almost feel like you're living in a small town. A really small town, like you're not worried. You know your neighbors. You're not worried about stuff going missing. But it is really, that's the core of our community there. And then the outside of that, we talk about the pool, and it's broke. We got this beautiful field house that is, I traveled a lot in my career, and when I walk in there, I walk there pretty much every morning. When I walk in there, I don't think I'm in Weyburn, Saskatchewan. I think I am in Calgary. I think I am in, that is a state-of-the-art facility that not only puts us on the map, but also brings so many people to Weyburn. We had the soccer tournament, the young soccer tournament. There's like 50 teams that came to Weyburn, and the spin-off to that is crazy. Yeah.
Is that the sports house that's right beside the pool? Because when I was in Weyburn, I looked at that sports field, and it wasn't open at the time because it was just like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Is that the one is that the one?
Yeah. So we got the school that's attached to the field house, the Spark Center, and then the pool's right on the other side there. Yeah.
I knew that. See, I know where things are in this country.
Absolutely.
Just have to make sure that I do. I want to turn to you talk about the opportunities, you talk about the safety. How do you keep that? Because smaller communities, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but smaller communities are changing right now, and you see growth, and growth comes with the challenges. Do you feel like Weyburn would be able to stay a safe community if you see that growth as well? Because as the hub of South, I don't want to throw Estevan under the bus right now, but I'm going to have to a little bit for this question. I apologize, Mayor Cernik, for this question that I'm about to pose to Weyburn. But Weyburn's the hub of southeastern Saskatchewan, because if you come through Manitoba, you come through Estevan, you're going to Regina, you have to stop in Weyburn. You're going down from Regina, you have to stop in Weyburn to hit Torquay, you have to hit Assiniboine. Weyburn's the hub. I'm just going to put that out there. How do you keep it a safe community when you have so many people coming in through every day? Is it just because everyone looks after each other?
Yeah, I think there's that too. There's a hometown neighborly feel, but you can't get complacent. And you can't get complacent when it comes to emergency services and all that kind of stuff. You can't say, okay, you hire people, your administration and your leaders to make those recommendations. I'm no chief of police, I am no fire chief, and I'm no administrator, but you have to empower those people to make the right decision, give you the information, and then that's where the hard part comes, because everybody has the best idea and they want their piece of the pie, but you cannot stay still. That is the biggest thing, and you've got to keep investing in that.
So I want to turn to a unique question because I asked this to your fellow council colleague as well. So I'm going to ask you as well. Have you enjoyed it? Have you enjoyed your really crash course into governance of municipal politics?
It's been pretty eye opening, and I think that's a general theme. I guess it's been eye opening for me. I feel like I had an advantage coming in, a little bit of advantage because I know the city of Weyburn and I work there. But you asked me that in the first kind of month when everything was going bad. You're like, what did I sign up for? That was and I didn't have the answer. And I am in my career, I've been the leader, I've been the but when you don't have the answers right away. So, but now it's starting to settle down and get a little slower, and building those relationships. I'm really excited to go to Suma here. That is something, really excited to go. I think our whole team's going that week, and just not only because when you live in your little area, but I know we're not unique with our problems,
Yeah.
and we're not arrogant enough to think, hey, building those relationships, maybe, hey, another town has went through this. How did you do this? How are we going to do this? Because we are really suffering from the same problem.
What advice do you wish you would have known prior to getting involved in politics that you learned along the way? Because we have people who are municipal leaders, who are candidates, who are thinking about putting their names on the ballot, who listen to the show on a regular basis. I know because they reach out to me and say, "Why didn't you ask this question? Why didn't you follow up on this?" Because armchair experts, gotta love them. What advice do you wish you would have known prior to getting elected that you learned in those first 4 months, 5 months since you have been elected that you could instill upon the next generation, or that you would say, Todd, if you would have just known this, it would have made it a lot easier for the first 4 months?
Yeah, I think in general right now, government moves slow, and
What? Whoa,
yeah,
whoa, stop the
I know
presses.
it's a revelation, but government moves slow. And sometimes, I'd be frank with you, I think it moves way too slow. But it moves slow for a reason
Yeah.
too. And I am in private sector. Sometimes you're just going hard, and but it moves slow for a reason because you have to realize the impact, and it also slows down because if you have somebody that gets elected that has an agenda, a single issue, that doesn't allow that person or that group or whatever just to monopolize everything and go. So I think that's one thing I've appreciated, the starting to appreciate. I still do find it frustrating at times, the slow pace of government, but as you get in there, breathe, things take time. You're not going to change the world in the first 6 months. That's hard for me. That is very hard for me to do. But empowering your people and making sure they're going down the same path. And I think it was a radio host that I always listen to says, nose in, fingers out, nose in, fingers out. Yeah.
Best way to do it. I want to turn to my last segment, and it's my favorite segment because I'm coming to Weyburn, Saskatchewan, the week prior to this airing, but a week after we're recording this. So it's really right in the middle of when we're recording slash airing this. Uh, what tourist spots should I see? What are the tourism hidden gems that you think people need to see if they ever stop in Weyburn, Saskatchewan?
So I think always you have to go to our field house, that Spark Center, which also ties in the art gallery, and that's something I am not. Frankly, I'm a very pragmatic person. My brain is all business and everything, but to open up to the arts, and I think that's something that Weyburn is really strong at, is arts. Is going there for sure. That's something, just a tour of that hub of activity there. I think walking our downtown, we're doing a little bit of a revitalization project, but we've got some really cool niche little places there that you wouldn't expect in a little small town Weyburn. Some of our old heritage buildings, or old what used to be called Mount St. Mary's Hospital, has turned into this little cafe, and the next level is a business that does some clothing and just cool little vibes all over the place.
That's awesome. Where's your favorite spot in town? After a long day, after a challenging day of municipal life, is there a spot that you can go and decompress?
So that is my 6 o'clock in the morning walk at the Spark Center.
Okay. I was
Every
gonna say, I thought you were gonna say my 6 o'clock coffee at my kitchen table. It's like you can't say your house.
no,
Everyone says their house. But so you just heard it, everyone. If you want to go talk to the counselor at 6 o'clock in the morning, go chat with them at the Sparks.
absolutely. You walk beside me, and that's where I get there at 6 in the morning, and I usually walk till 7. But that is a place where it is an amazing facility. And now that it's getting nicer out, we have the best walking paths. I
Yes,
think
you do.
it is so good. So I've got a couple dogs, and me and my wife, and now that's something we do all the time, is that walking paths and biking, and yeah.
You have one of the best walking paths, plus you have one of the best tree shaded downtown cores that I've seen.
Yeah.
Your downtown core is one of the best that I have. Just envious of that when I was
Nice.
down there walking around. So my final question for you, and it's the $1 million one. So we started by talking about you, we're ending by talking about the city of Weyburn, and it's a very important question. I think you know how to answer it, but let's put it on the record. What makes Weyburn, Saskatchewan such a unique place to live, to work, and to raise a family, counselor?
Yeah, so I think it is this small town, and we're so welcoming, and the cost of living is really really good in Weyburn, and I think our mission as a council is we're going to be open for business. We're going to be working with our people, and we're going to promote the heck out of Weyburn to keep growing Weyburn and not stand still. And I'm so happy with the group of council we have. We have a really strong council that are all generally pointed in the right direction. And I always say that with a little bit of caveat. We have some great debates, because I think if you have 7 people that all just pat each other on the back and say you guys are all great, but we have some great debates, and sometimes we might not agree, but when that gavel goes down and the decision's made, we need to be Team Weyburn.
Yeah.
We can't be mad because we didn't get our way, or maybe the way we thought. We are all Team Weyburn, and that's something our culture, we're trying to push all the way down to Team Weyburn.
I think Mayor Richard said it best on when he was a counselor at the time on this show. He said, "There's no Team A and there's no Team B in Weyburn. There's only Team Weyburn." And it seems
Yeah.
like after speaking with Mayor Richards, yourself, Mayor Councillor Ladowski, it really seems like the Team Weyburn approach is working, and you guys got a great team around you. Counselor, I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sitting down with me and taking time out of your day and chatting with me about politics and your first few months in office and life of a municipal councillor. I always learn so much from these shows, and I learn so much from these conversations. And I can't believe I did not know that pools cost a lot of money and government moves slow. But this is the great thing. We learn things new every day on this show.
Well, and I joked that I said we should maybe just build a dugout. It's probably better for the immune system, and good old Saskatchewan dugout.
Oh, that's the best way. Counselor, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in Weyburn when I come through if we have time. And if not, I will see you at SUMA when this is airing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the invite, and chat soon.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Cross Border Interviews. Now, we hope you enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights into the world of Weyburn, Saskatchewan. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube, or follow us on all the social media links. To learn more about the communities and the people we feature on this show, visit us online at crossborderinterviews.ca. Your support means the world to us. So share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and help keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll be back Tuesday with a brand new episode of Cross Border Interviews. Till then, everyone.